Good afternoon, ladies, gentlemen, boys, and girls. My name is Ahmed, or Big Ak, and Salamu Alaikum. Welcome to today's video. I found this channel a couple months ago. It's actually amazing. I love watching it. It's called Corey Gill Schuster. Sorry if I slandered your name at all, my good sir. But he lives in Israel, if I'm not mistaken, and he goes around and he asks Israelis and Palestinians, Arabs, and Jewish people, Christians, Samaritans, different religious groups and different people in that area. He goes and asks them questions that people request to and give him online. That way we can get a first party kind of media outlet from him rather than getting it from, CNN and Fox News and the Western sources of media and Twitter and Instagram, and getting all of this garbage and fed multi-billion-dollar media company, biases. So I'm going to go ahead and jump right into it. This guy's videos are awesome. This video is called Why Don't Jews Believe Jesus is the Messiah? So he's going to go ahead.
So after the last time you
Jews
explained why
Israel
Jesus could not be the Messiah, I got lots of replies,
the Old Testament,
saying, but there is a lot of evidence in the Hebrew Bible that says that Jesus must be the Messiah, and I'll list them. He was born in the Messiah will be born in Bethlehem, born of a virgin, heir to the King David's throne. Isaiah describes the Messiah will be crucified for his sins. The Messiah would be resurrected from the dead, and would come before the destruction of the temple. These are the highlights that they gave me lists. So, could you speak to that?
The issue, of course, why Judaism traditionally does not accept Jesus as the Messiah. And you have heard a number of arguments, a number of purported proofs. So if we go through them, obviously some of these proofs are relatively meaningless. Born in Bethlehem means nothing because there were plenty of people born in Bethlehem. Okay. Being a descendant of King David, well, indeed, we do believe in our tradition that the Messiah will be a descendant of King David. But once again, that doesn't prove the converse, that a descendant of King David is the Messiah. Moreover, within the New Testament itself, and again, I accept that Christians probably have an answer, but once again, the concept that Jesus is descended from David is via Joseph, when in fact the doctrine of the virgin birth seems to connote a different father. So Christianity is going to have to deal with that contradiction and of itself. Okay, and I assume they probably have some resolution to that problem. The issue of the Messiah coming before the destruction of the temple, I honestly do not know a source for that. Our tradition is exactly the opposite.
Daniel 9:26.
Well, again, these verses can be interpreted in different ways. The book of Daniel is notoriously obscure, and the fact that a Christological interpretation is offered cannot be considered proof because there are many alternative interpretations. Now, the general messianic redemption that's described both in the Hebrew Bible and in the Talmud does suggest the opposite, that there will be a galut, which means an exile, there will be a destruction, and the Messiah will come and be God's agent for redemption and for rebuilding the temple. One interesting text that they do cite is the notion of the virgin birth. And here I do want to point out that this is a famous controversy. There is indeed a prophecy in Isaiah that talks about and I'll use the Hebrew word, the Alma conceiving and giving birth to a child. And the Christian understanding of the word Alma is Alma equals virgin. In point of fact, that is not the Hebrew word for virgin. The Hebrew word for virgin is Bitulah. Alma actually means a young woman, and it does not connote whether it's a virginal state or not. And
meaning in all sources of the time, Alma would be used to mean just a young woman.
That is correct. Elam is a young boy, and Alma is a young woman. And in the overall context of the verse, it's a little difficult to...
Do you see how he's translating the words from the original scripture of Hebrew into English, and how he's explaining to you what the word Alma means rather than just Christians? and other people alike going on Google and just typing in what does this word mean and doing a Google Translate, especially when it comes to Semitic languages, Hebrew, Arabic, Aramaic. They're very complex. One word can break down into 12 different meanings depending on how you use it, what dashes you put under it, what you put next to it. So it is very important to understand language and comprehension and how it can be translated.
It is not referring to Messiah at all. It is not even a messianic prophecy. It is a prophecy regarding the birth of Hezekiah, Chizkiyahu HaMelech, who was the dominant king in the time of Isaiah, who successfully deflected the Assyrian attack on Jerusalem. So he was a quasi-messianic figure, but in fact it is not talking about either the virgin birth, nor is it even talking about the ultimate Messiah. The final text, though, is they do talk about the crucifixion of the Messiah, which is again Isaiah 53, which talks about the suffering servant of God, indeed. And in many, many ways, one could look at various facts in Jesus' life and match them up with the prophecy in Isaiah. I understand that that is a possible interpretation. I just want to say, though, that we have a whole vast corpus of Jewish interpretation of Isaiah 53, in which they regard the suffering servant as not a reference to an individual, but as a reference to the overall fate of the Jewish people that has suffered through century after century of persecution and in effect bears the sin of the world. And that's part of the mysterious redemptive process, that through suffering and destruction there is new birth and creation and rejuvenation. I may be getting out on a limb here even among my Jewish friends, and that is in some ways much of the Christian symbolism of the crucifixion is in a sense building on a mystical view of the Jewish people themselves. This concept that through suffering on behalf of the world, the world is somehow brought to a better and deeper and more spiritual place. We kind of go with that symbolism as well, except we apply it to the entire Jewish nation as opposed to an isolated person. So if you look at the
they play victim,
classical
and
biblical
he's basically using the
see that
crucifixion
suffering
of
servant
Jesus
of
that
God,
was
according to many, is interpreted as a reference
prophesied
to the
in the
Jewish people.
Old Testament.
So
Prophesies the
say,
suffering of Jewish people in
a
general,
text
not
cannot
just
be a
Jesus.
proof if there are multiple interpretations of a text. So yes, if you interpret text A to mean X, then you can prove your proposition, but it doesn't have to mean X. There are many, many alternative interpretations. And how do you choose among them, I think, is whether or not it is consistent with your overall theological orientation. I had mentioned before, without repeating everything in my earlier talk, that we do not believe primarily that the Messiah will have a second coming. Once the Messiah comes, he will complete his mission, which Jesus did not do. We cannot accept that. Also, we cannot accept the abrogation of the Sinaitic covenant, because it is part of our theology that the Torah that was given to Moses remains binding. Now, I understand there's a great deal of debate, even among Christians, whether Jesus himself taught the abrogation of the mitzvot, or that was a product of Paul later. And I don't want to enter into that debate, but certainly if it is a teaching of Christianity that the covenant of Sinai and the 613 mitzvot are no longer binding, that is not an acceptable position in Jewish theology. Again, perhaps going on thin ice.
To add, he's talking about how Jesus actually died. They don't believe that the Messiah dies and then comes back. The Messiah has one mission. He will come and he will do his mission. He will not die and then get resurrected, or die or get lifted or come back or resurrect in any type of way, shape, or form. So because Jesus was crucified, this is what the Jewish people are saying, because Jesus was crucified and Jesus was killed, he couldn't possibly be the Messiah, because the Messiah doesn't die, right? The Messiah just shouldn't die. The Messiah comes and fulfills his mission. In Islam, we don't believe that Jesus was crucified. The Quran says it appeared to them that Jesus was crucified, meaning we don't know who, how, what was crucified. Maybe Jesus was up there. They put him, when they took him down for Passover, he was gone. He wasn't resurrected. He never died in the first place. B, God raised him. He replaced him with somebody else. C, there's different things that can mean made to appear, which means that Jesus, it looked like Jesus was crucified, but God did not allow Jesus to be crucified. God raised him up to him. So Islam believes that once you die, you're pretty much dead. We don't believe in resurrection on earth. We believe in reincarnation or resurrection on earth. We believe that only we get resurrected on Judgment Day. That's after everyone dies. God will bring us back and judge us all. So we believe that Jesus is in the heavens with God, and God is holding him and preserving him so that he can come back at the end of times as the Messiah. We don't believe that he died and resurrected. We don't believe in the crucifixion at all. So that alone, like, our view of Jesus could be the Jewish Messiah as well.
Maimonides writes in a censored passage in his writing, it was taken out by Christian censors in the Middle Ages, that he saw both Christianity and Islam as being very worthwhile steps to wean the ancient world away from paganism and to give them a sense of morality and ethics, even if it didn't always play out that way. So I'm certainly not here to disparage these sincere beliefs of other people, and indeed religion can often be a tremendous force for goodness, although sometimes it works the other way around. But certainly I cannot say that the Jewish texts are proofs for Christian beliefs, since we in our own tradition have absolutely alternative and contradictory interpretations of those very texts. So that's my little piece.
Hey guys, please.
Awesome. So that guy was super, super respectful. Awesome answer. I really like the way that he answered it. Super educational. He used the actual text. He quoted from Hebrew to English. So he helped, because he actually speaks the Semitic language of Hebrew. He helped convert certain words and certain understandings to make things more clear. The Jewish people do not believe that Jesus is the Messiah. They don't believe that he could be the Messiah because A, he died. B, the prophecies in the Old Testament don't all match to Jesus. Some of the claims that are made aren't translated or are translated in different ways, and the interpretation of it is different depending on what you believe and who you are. So it makes it very complicated. So the Jewish people just stick to the original script that Moses had given them. They decide not to try and put their faith out on a limb and give it up to Jesus or give it out to Muhammad. They stay directly where they are. Anyways, guys, awesome video today. Awesome understanding, awesome information from the Jewish man right here. If you guys like the video, leave a like, subscribe, and leave your comments down below on what you think. If you have any other videos to suggest, go ahead and suggest them below. And God bless and peace out. Thank you. Bye-bye.